Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes. With hands-free capture on an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
In Walmart's Who Newville, everyone readied their cart. The early Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember are the 14th to the 16th of November. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This episode is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. What do you bring to a holiday party? Simple. A bottle of Casamigos. Because nothing gets the party started like a Casamigos margarita, which isn't just for summer. In fact, it's the perfect pour all year round. Casamigos is the gift that always feels right. Because anything goes with my Casamigos. Please drink responsibly. Imported by Casamigos Spirits Company, White Plains, New York. Casamigos Tequila, 40% alcohol by volume.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour as we are getting you set for week 10. I forgot what week we were in. Week 10 in the National Football League as the Philadelphia Eagles are set to host the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football in what a lot of people, in a game that a lot of people have been waiting for. I'm your host, LG Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's going on, man?
It's a Friday, it's finally the weekend, the work week's done, and we have another great Eagles football game to look forward to. Hopefully they don't, continue to shorten our lifespan this week with another nail-biter, but something has me feeling it's going to be. I feel like we're in it for the rest of the season for nail-biters.
These are two very evenly matched teams. The Eagles coming off a victory against Green Bay on Monday, 10-7. Detroit coming off a victory at Washington, putting up over 40 points with Dan Campbell, retaking the play calling from Johnny Morton. But before we jump into any more of the talk about the game, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LG Harrell. And follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpool Network. And if you're joining us not live, let us know your thoughts on the game in the chat. Who's your player to watch? What's your prediction? Some keys to the game. That's what we always end our show with, is our keys to the games, players to watch, and prediction, along with our unheralded player of the week from the previous week in the National Football League. So the Eagles sit at 7. Actually, we're going into week 11. We're already into week 11. Hold up. Wow. We are into week 11 already. The football
11. Season
flies by so fast. The Eagles are 7-2. The Eagles are 7-2. The Detroit Lions are 7-3, if I'm not mistaken. They are in a battle in the NFC North with Green Bay and Minnesota, or Green Bay and the Bears, and Minnesota's also over 500 in last place. The Eagles have a 4-game lead in the win column in the NFC East, and if they win this week and they win next week against Dallas, that pretty much may wrap up the division before we hit December, which would be pretty freaking cool. as the Eagles fight for the number 1 seed. Connor, just your overall feelings going into this game. I put the tweet out this morning with the poll, that the who's going to win and why poll, that the NFL world has pretty much been waiting over the last year and a half, 2 years, for the Eagles and Lions to play. Everybody thought that was going to be the NFC Championship last year, but the Washington Commanders went into Detroit and put a beat down on the Lions. Now the Lions were ravished by injuries on the defensive side of the ball last year. They're coming into this game, injuries once again. 2 in the secondary are out. Sam Laporta, their all-world tight end, is out. I'm not using that as an excuse for anybody, because the Eagles are, while they're healthy-ish, they're still banged up at positions. But what are your overall feelings on the game as it approaches this Sunday?
Just quick correction: the Lions are 6-3, not 7-3. They have already had their bye week as well. So, but
close enough.
Otherwise, initial thoughts. I mean, I still think this is going to be a really good game. Like the Detroit Lions, I mean, if you're going to sit there and say that the Eagles have have the best weapons on offense, and the Detroit Lions may be close second, because I mean, like you said, they're going to be without Laporta, but
I think they
don't
might have better weapons.
Arguably, because they know how to use them all, I guess is probably the better avenue to go, the route to go with this. But I mean, you have Laporta, who's going to be out, but if Sam Laporta is in there, obviously he's an extremely good tight end, very talented tight end. Started the season slow, really has come on the last handful of weeks. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a top wide receiver 1 out there. You got Jameson Williams, who's, hit or miss, but when he hits, he hits. I mean, he can go for 5 and 150 and a touchdown or 2 and be a massive difference maker in a game. And then, of course, you have the two-headed monster of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. This is going to be true. And then Jared Goff, he knows what he's doing in the confines of this offense. You talk about, like, if you want to talk about system quarterbacks or whatever, it doesn't even matter, because as long as you can do what he's capable of doing within the confines of his offense and with the weapons at his disposal. I mean, right now you could argue Jared Goff at times this season is looking better than Jalen Hurts, because he's able to put everything together with his offensive pieces and put up the requisite points. Because I think over the last 2 weeks, the Lions, since Dan Campbell took over play calling, have put up 30 and 40 or something along those lines. They've put up massive numbers since Dan Campbell took over the play call. And so this is definitely not going to be necessarily a cakewalk for this defense. It's definitely going to put this defense to the test. And if they're able to stand up against this offense, I mean, then you can definitely say they're probably the best defense in the NFL right now, if they aren't already arguably the best defense in the NFL. And then I guess on the flip side, we have the whole, I mean, we can talk about the A.J. Brown thing. I think that's totally, I think we're beyond that. I'm tired of talking about it. The media just wants to make what it wants to make of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to try and get A.J. Brown involved. This has to be, I mean, I feel like we've said this a few times, but this has to be a get-right game for this offense. At some point, this offense has to click and find something, because this is going to be one of those games where you look at it and you're going to be able to say, this is like a playoff game. You could argue the Green Bay game was like a playoff game, but I feel like you're not going to end up with a 10-7 game in the playoffs. Not often. This is one of those games where the offense is really going to have to put up some points, because the defense is going to be battled and tried and tested in this matchup. So, I mean, my initial thoughts are that it really looks like, no David versus Goliath here. It's like Goliath versus Goliath, because these are two huge offenses, huge defenses, both banged up. Like you said, at the beginning of the week, the Eagles' offensive line, all of them were on the injury report. Every single one of the starting offensive linemen was on the injury report, including 4 of them as limited participants. Cam Jurgens is probably going to go, but Cam Jurgens could probably use another week off based on kind of what he was saying during the media time. But I mean, he was a full participant, so the assumption is he's going to play. But like you said, both of these teams are banged up in different areas of their teams that are definitely going to probably impact how they have to play this game.
If on Monday Green Bay was the best defense that the Eagles have faced this Sunday night is probably the best offense that the Eagles are going to have seen so far up to this point in the season, and maybe for the rest of the season. I'm just kind of projecting out maybe the Bills, but we'll see. Maybe Dallas. We'll see. But this Dan Campbell knows how to use his weapons, and it will be a playoff atmosphere at the Link. The one thing that Detroit does that we have, and Dan Campbell does that we haven't seen the Eagles do thus far, is get all of their weapons involved. And that's something we haven't seen Kevin Patullo be able to do. They played really conservative on Monday night. And if they play conservative on Sunday against Detroit, they're going to get blown out. Well, I shouldn't say blown out. They're going to lose. The Eagles defense is better than Washington's defense. So when it comes to will they give up 40 points, highly unlikely. But the Eagles on offense are going to have to score. You're not going to hold Detroit to just a touchdown. Now, I know Detroit, has thrown a couple of clunkers in there. The Minnesota game, for instance, wasn't that great of a game. Their other loss was the season opener against Green Bay on the road. Look, the Detroit is not going to be playing in the confines of that dome this weekend. And on a different, at home in Detroit in the dome, they are a different animal. It's not really going to be that cold on Sunday in Philly. Quickly looking at the temperature, it's probably going to be in the 50s. Now it will be at night, so the temperature will be going down, but it's not like it's going to be if they were to match up, say, in January in the NFC Championship game in Philly. That would be a totally different animal, and the crowd would be a totally different animal. But it's going to be an atmosphere that, like, this fan base, both fan bases have been waiting for this matchup. And I mentioned earlier, like, everybody thought that was going to be the NFC Championship game last year, but it wasn't. So now we finally get that matchup. And Detroit, pretty much all offseason, has been talking, has had Philly on their mind. Amon-Ra St. Brown, on his podcast was saying how they wanted that to be they wanted the Eagles to come to Philly week 1, that opening Thursday night, because, and then I don't know if it was Jahmyr Gibbs or somebody else was just saying that, if they were healthy, the Eagles wouldn't have won the Super Bowl last year. You can play that what if game all you want. Well, the results are the results. You guys got blown out in the playoffs against Washington, and your offense was healthy. You didn't put up enough points. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, I know that they're not going to have Laporta, and that's definitely a big loss for them. But, when you look, Amon-Ra St. Brown's really good. Jameson Williams, really good. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. Being an Alabama fan, like, Jameson Williams and Devontae Smith played together at Alabama, and that was the year that Devontae won the Heisman. And I think he only won the Heisman, honestly. Jameson Williams got hurt, and the offense kind of was able to run through Devontae Smith. I don't know if maybe it would have been the same if Williams didn't get hurt. But still, he's an electric talent. He's got speed on speed on speed. And they Dan Campbell last week found creative ways to get him the ball. And that's what they're going to want to do this week. If they put him in the slot, is Cooper DeJean going to be able to run with him? Do the Eagles have anybody that can run with him? If Q is going to match up with one of the receivers, is it going to be St. Brown? Is it going to be Williams? These are all the questions that Vic Fangio has been pondering pretty much all week. And I'm going to be intrigued to see what the defensive game plan is going to be. When you talk about the running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, you get him the ball in space, he can make anybody miss. This is going to be a big matchup for the linebackers, whether it's Bond, whether it's Dean, whether it's Campbell, whoever it is, because they like to get Gibbs out in open space, give them a two-way route, when they come out the backfield. They give them like that, what they call, I think, the Texas route. You're going to go up and you pick wherever you want to go, and Jared Goff will find you. That is going to be key. I mean, we saw, I think, was it last week? He had that big touchdown run, just blazing speed. He is so quick. And then you bring in the hammer. They call themselves Sonic and Knuckles. Like, there's a reason for that. You have the fast, twitchy guy in Gibbs. Then you have the hammer in David Montgomery. So this is going to be a very, very tough battle. And it's crazy because the Eagles played in a very physical matchup in Green Bay on Monday. This is going to be another physical matchup in a span of 6 days. So the Eagles just have to prepare. Obviously, been preparing themselves all week. And I can't wait for Sunday night. I hate night games. I prefer 1 o'clock kickoffs on Sunday. I want to get it done and over with. But, the entire football world's going to be watching on Sunday night. Let's just hope that the Eagles don't, make a fool of themselves.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You really can't go out there and make a fool of yourself. I mean, the offense has made a fool of themselves on just a multitude of occasions this season. And I think that it's time that, this is a game that people are going to look back on and say, I can already see it on Monday morning within the national media that, the fraud conversation for the Philadelphia Eagles if they lose this game because of just how important it is, because there is an expectation, once again, that these two are going to meet at some point along the line in the playoffs, depending how everything finishes out. So I can already hear some of I'm already in like the production room at ESPN or, one of those other studios, just figuring out, if the Eagles lose this game, the topic and the discussion that's going to come out of that, especially if this offense puts up a dud again, because just like you said, at this point, we've seen enough of a conservative approach to this offense, and we need to move past that. We can no longer continue to be conservative. If you have some plays that you can dial up in your playbook, you need to start pulling them out and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And we've seen on some occasions where things work, and we know the long ball to Devontae Smith is on point. The long ball to A.J. Brown, generally on point. This season hasn't been as on point. We've seen a couple of occasions where they just haven't seemed to be on the same page on plays that A.J. Brown probably should have made the catch or Jalen Hurts probably should have made the throw. So it's a big game from that standpoint. I don't think, like when you look back at the Lions throughout this season, they've been a mixed bag of results, like you said. But I mean, since that game against the Green Bay Packers, where they put up 13, the lowest amount that they've put up is 17. And for the most part, there you have a 52, a 38, a 34, a 37, a 44. Of course, thrown in there that the banged up Washington Commanders, the Cleveland Browns. But if the Eagles played those teams, I'm not convinced that they're putting up 40, 30 points. It's been tough to trust this offense to do those things. So while we can sit there and say, well, look who they faced, they're doing what they're supposed to do against those bad teams. Just like last year, we talked about the Eagles in that vein quite a bit. They had, a handful of games where people were like, well, of course they're going to win. That's an easy game. But you have to be able to beat the teams that are in front of you. And especially if they're a weak team, really just putting up as many points as you can is optimal and what you want to see your team do. And that's what the Detroit Lions have been doing this year when they've had inferior opponents. And obviously, if they have that matchup, which they do have that matchup again with Green Bay in 3 weeks, the outcome's probably not going to be 27-13 like week one. Week one, as we all know, is essentially like the preseason, getting things going. It was the start of a new offensive coordinator. Now, at this point, when they face the Green Bay Packers again, they're going to be like 6 games into the Dan Campbell era of calling plays again. So, I don't know. I feel like this is a far more important game for the Philadelphia Eagles offense than it is the defense. We've seen the defense shine. We know that this is going to be a very tough matchup for the defense. We know they're not going to hold this team to 7 points, like you said. So, but keeping it low would give us lots to talk about in regards to this defense is definitely elite. This defense is one that's going to be able to carry this offense to the Super Bowl if they have to. But obviously, there's a very good chance that they're going to give up at least 20 to 30 points, and that is at no fault of their own. They're just playing such a high-powered offense that with or without Sam Laporta has more than enough weapons to make up for the loss of Sam Laporta. And Brock Wright and Ross Dwelley, who are going to be the second and third string tight ends, are experienced tight ends who, in a pinch, Brock Wright has stepped up on occasion for Jared Goff and given that once in a blue moon game, usually at least once a season, he is one of those games. So they're not people to just scoff at and say, oh, without Sam Laporta, they have nothing at the tight end position. No, they definitely have maybe not names that you might recognize, but they definitely have talented tight ends that can make things work, especially when you have all these other weapons that are out there and around it. But I think this is going to be an all-important game for this Eagles offense and Kevin Petula to really... You showed us a super conservative game where you leaned into the defense for the entirety of the game. Now it's time to show us a bit more. You're going pound for pound with the Detroit Lions. You got to dig to the bottom of the playbook, some of the plays we have not seen yet this season, and start using them.
Yeah, I'm tired of seeing the give up draw. And there were on 4 occasions the ball went to, on the third and longs, the ball went to Will Shipley. Like there's an opportunity you can potentially get the ball to an A.J. Brown or get the ball to Dallas Goedert or get the ball to Devontae Smith. So like I'm tired of that. Like I know we saw it on the 2nd and 31 against the Giants, or 2nd and 26, whatever it was, when they did a draw to Bigsby, and he was able to pick up the first down. That was all fine and dandy. But like, just see it 4, 5, 6 times in one game, like that can't happen. You need to be aggressive. You need to go for you know what Detroit's going to do. They're going for it on 4th down. They're throwing the ball down the field. They're not going to give up draws and whatnot. They're going to go for the throat. So if you don't and you play conservative, you're definitely going to lose the game.
And I'm tired of hearing from Patullo and Sirianni that, every time they're asked about that, like especially Patullo when he was asked about the draws, and they just go back to, well, it's what the game called for. It's what the game dictated. So what happened to the Eagles team that last year in a close game, or even in a game where they're blowing a team out and it's 3rd and long, you took the shot and you put the dagger into those games with shots like that? What happened to that Eagles offense? Because we need that Eagles offense back, especially up against the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and I hope they haven't been holding anything back. I mean, obviously we want to see something different. So I just want to see them be aggressive. Look, I get it. The thought is if you win the turnover battle with the team that we have, the defense that we have, we're going to win most of the time. And to that respect, we have won most of the time. Like, the Eagles have lost 3 football games in the last year and a half or whatever it may be. Like, the Eagles don't lose, for the most part. And that's the strategy that they've been using. But, and I'm not trying to rehash everything that went down with A.J. Brown this week, but what he said is right. Like, yes, we won the game, but are you satisfied with how the offense looked? No. And while it may seem like he is hauling for the football, or all he cares about is stats, which to an extent he might, but he wants to help the offense. I would be more upset if he just didn't give a crap. He is showing me personally that he cares, that he wants to help the offense get better. The only way they're going to go forward and repeat as champions is if the offense gets better. If the offense stays like this and stays stagnant, they are going to lose in the playoffs. All he is asking for is we need to find a way to improve. How hard is that for people to understand? It makes zero sense that people are calling him out because he's the only one complaining and he should do this behind closed doors. Well, guess what? How do we know he hasn't done it behind closed doors and nobody's listening? Remember the one post he put out is seeing me or using me but not using me or whatever, or and there was another one before that. I forget what it was, but it's like, if you're not going to, something about not listening to me, this, that, and the third. I don't know exactly what it is, but maybe he went to Sirianni, maybe he went to Patullo, and apparently him and Patullo talk all the time. Maybe him and Jalen have had conversations. I don't know. We know that is a contentious relationship, but maybe he has voiced his concerns and nothing has changed. And the only way he feels that it can change is he just talks.
I agree.
Just because Devontae's not talking, now Devontae is having a great year, but if you were to ask Devontae if this offense is doing well, he would probably say no. I know Goddard has a career-high 7 touchdowns. If you would ask him how the offense is going, he would probably say not well. If you ask the offensive line, we already know, we keep hearing the same thing from Mailata. They're 1 block away from springing Saquon. They would probably say the offense, and Lane Johnson has said it, that the offense isn't good. Saquon, the running game obviously hasn't been good. Just because AJ is the only one that voices his concerns doesn't mean everybody else in the offense doesn't feel the same way. I personally don't care that he is speaking up about it. I'm glad he is. I'm glad somebody is, because that's how we feel. And again, maybe he did say something, in the building, in a meeting with coaches, whatever it may be, and he might have thought it went in one ear, and out the other. And if that's the case, that's not on AJ. That's on the coaches. That's on, Sirianni, and that's on Patullo. Again, I'm not putting the blame on them, but something needs to change on the offense. Yes, we are winning games, and yes, that's the only thing that really matters. But you cannot be satisfied with the offense, that the talent we have on the offense. We shouldn't be the 30th ranked passing offense or whatever we are. We shouldn't be in the 20s when it comes to offense efficiency. It shouldn't happen. We have too much talent on the offense, and the only way, if the only way that it's going to be fixed, or at least seem like it's going to be fixed, is for somebody to speak up. I'm glad somebody did.
Yeah, we ranked 3rd in yards, 25th in passing yards, first in rushing yards. It's with all the talent, like you said, that we have. There's no reason. And to your point, AJ Brown has not specifically called out a person or a player, or I mean, you can take.
He's frustrated with how the offense is performing.
Exactly,
and that's everybody.
Exactly, and you can take it as, oh, he's calling out Kevin Patullo because he wants to see the ball more and whatever. I mean, that's for, the shitty Philly media to decipher and decide that's where he's going with it. But me and you clearly are on the same page, and there's a lot of other people. I saw Zach Berman post about it yesterday as well. There's two sides to this. There's either people who are with AJ Brown, or there are people who are taking AJ Brown and twisting it into a story and something that they're hoping they'll get some clicks on. And at the end of the day, it could be like the Miami Dolphins situation where you had Mike McDaniel calling players out specifically. You had Tua calling out Mike McDaniel. Like, you had people actually calling people out by name, but it's not that way. And AJ Brown, I mean, you want your franchise players to be able to feel like they can voice their opinion and be present with the team and trying to move the team in the right direction. And I feel like while some of the way that he says things may come off as, you could say that better, he's tried to say it better. He even said at his media availability on Thursday that to the media, he came out and said, I told you, I said everything you wanted me to say on Monday, the way I'm supposed to say it to the media, and look at what's happened throughout the week and how you guys have taken it and how you've twisted the stories. It's more upset. I'm more annoyed at the media and how they are spinning this rather than AJ Brown, because AJ Brown is an elite offensive player. He is a player you should be listening to, you should be respecting, and your offense, you paid this man. He just got a brand new contract. One of the biggest reasons you can't trade him is the dead money is enormous this year and next year. So you just gave this guy a new contract. He has every right to sit there and be like, well, I'm still not happy with my role. The national media and the Philly media can play it how they want, but I can clearly tell me and you, LJ, are on the same page. This is not about what the media wants it to be about, but this has everything to do with, I want the offense to be better, and I know, and everyone around us knows that this offense is better when the ball also goes into my hands, because we've seen AJ Brown. Without AJ Brown, we don't win games. With AJ Brown, we win games. This year, we're with AJ Brown, we're winning games, but he's not touching the football. And you know that the minute A.J. Brown's not in the lineup for a game, we're probably losing the game. It's just like Lane Johnson and A.J. Brown. They're interchangeable as pieces that need to be in the lineup for us to win games.
Yeah, we beat the Giants, but the Giants suck.
But the Giants are the Giants, exactly.
He had two catches for 13 yards on Monday against Green Bay, but the Devontae Smith touchdown, the reason why he was able to have that one-on-one coverage, Xavier McKinney came down on A.J. Brown. Like, A.J. Brown is still taking, multiple guys away from Goddard, away from Smitty, to keep them open. So he is still positively affecting the offense. And like he talked about it, he's like, teams, they'll cloud him. And look, Detroit plays a man-to-man. It wouldn't shock me if Brian Branch is over top of him. If the other safety, who's the other safety? It's going to be Thomas Harper because Kirby Joseph's out. If he's over top of him. And especially, the injuries in the secondary for Detroit with Terry and Arnold out, and Amik Robertson is questionable, but he's going to play. Rock Ya-Sin is an okay corner, but he's not great. Like, also Temple grad, so he's coming back home. Like, I mean, the Eagles offensively on the outside, their skill position weapons are better than the Detroit secondary right now. Detroit's weapons. Now, I love Brian Branch. Again, another Alabama guy. Like, Brian Branch is really good. Somebody I wanted the Eagles to draft. He's very physical, so he'll put a pop on you. I mean, I'm intrigued by all these matchups. And the last thing I want to say about the whole AJ thing is everybody wants athletes to speak out and tell the truth until they speak out and tell the truth. They hate, like, media and everybody hates the coach speak and when they give the team message or whatever. But then when somebody actually comes out and speaks their mind, it's the end of the world. So, like, make up your mind. You can't have it both ways. And that's the thing that really pisses me off about media a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I agree with that point. And to that point, it's not that the media is hating it. The media is just twisting it in a way that it's bad for the team. I mean, Cam Newton, I mean, he's the king of dysfunction. So the fact that he says that the Eagles are a dysfunctional organization waiting to happen is crazy. I still believe in the Nick Sirianni culture. I still believe in Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie and what they've built in Philadelphia. I think everyone is just taking A.J. Brown as this diva, this locker room cancer, this guy that's just creating complete dysfunction within the team, where I don't necessarily believe that any of those things are actually remotely close to true. It's just something that's going to get clicks and get Philadelphia Eagles fans riled up and go into your content and getting you exactly what you want to get, even if it's not well reported, even though it's not well thought out what people are saying about it. I mean, this is like you... Go ahead.
I was going to say, and obviously that's not true because he's the most popular guy in the locker room. He got voted a captain. Do we hear anybody in the locker room complaining about A.J. Brown? Now, is Sirianni and Hurts probably tired of answering the same question over and over and over again? Sure. But that's not because of, we don't know what the relationship is between A.J. and Jalen, and it's obviously not the same as it was when he got here in 2022. I think that was his first year, right? 22, 23. Whatever it was. But it was 22. That was the year they went to the Super Bowl. Sorry, I had to. But, you don't see Jalen throwing AJ under the bus. We even saw AJ kind of defending Jalen on Wednesday when he did his immediate availability, when people were like, or when he got asked a question and it was just like, is it Jalen just not throwing you the ball? And AJ was like, look, Jalen's got a lot. I'm not the first read all the time. And he, sometimes their pressure gets into his face quickly and he's got to go through a bunch of things in his head. AJ was pretty much defending Jalen and not saying it was Jalen's fault. So, all the people that are, the media that keeps saying that, he's a lot, like you mentioned, locker room cancer, this, that, and the third. He obviously is not. Obviously him, AJ and Devontae have a great relationship. There was a question, I think it was on, I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday, whatever. AJ was asked if he wanted to be there, and Devontae's next to him goes, why wouldn't he want to be here? And AJ laughed and whatnot. Come on now. Stop trying to divide this team. And you know what the crazy part is? We know that next month Hard Knocks is coming out. I wonder if anything, which I know the Eagles are a lot better organization than the Giants. And we're not going to see any of this, but I'm very intrigued to see how this plays out. And that's going to make Hard Knocks worth it. Just to see if, now I don't expect there to be anything at all that pertains to this that gets out or anything, worthwhile. But just the thought of the potential, how it plays out, how, everybody's, the working relationship is with AJ and his fellow receivers, AJ and Patullo, AJ and Sirianni, AJ and Hurts, just to see all that is going to be very intriguing when Hard Knocks comes out next month.
Yeah, I even forgot the Hard Knocks is coming out next month, but it will make it a lot more worthwhile to watch and kind of see if there's interactions or if there's anything that people are going to run with. But I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like, it is more the media trying to divide the team. You saw Lane Johnson's response, Saquon Barkley's response, Jalen Hurts, of course, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni can pretty much copy and paste a response to that question every single week because they're answering the way that they should. They're answering the way we expect them to, because they're not guys that are going to come out of their shell, especially Jalen's not going to come out of his shell and be the guy to start speaking way out of turn to what we're used to. But every time they try and say stuff, they're like, no, none of us are happy with the offense. No, do we want it to look like last year? Do we want it to be better? Of course we want it to be better. The same questions, the media at the end, I'm just going to end it as the media has to do better. The media has to think of better questions, different questions, move on from this because it's clearly not dividing the team as much as the media wants it to be dividing the team. And it's sad that you have to talk about the media in a sense where they're sitting there talking about A.J. Brown being a problem when nobody else in the locker room and clearly no one else in the organization feels that way. And I know that, Big Dom kind of initiated a conversation between A.J. Brown and Jeffrey Lurie, but I also don't believe that that's anything to sit there and be like, oh, Jeffrey Lurie wants A.J. Brown out. No, I think that was genuinely just Jeffrey Lurie checking in on his guy. You see all this stuff about mental health. You see everything. Some of these things can sometimes be a call for help for mental health issues. And I'm sure that it was Jeffrey Lurie, Big Dom initiating, and Jeffrey Lurie just being there to say, how you doing? How are things? And just making sure, is it just a frustration with the general, how the offense is functioning, and just to check in on his guys? It's not so wrong for an owner to actually care about his players, unlike, the Jets organization or other organizations where the owners they're just another dollar in their pocket. So, but back to the game. I do think like the offense, obviously we know that something has to spark. You hit on it. There's a couple of major injuries that the Eagles can definitely play to their favor, and man-to-man, we know A.J. Brown is one of the best man-to-man wide receivers there is. You can throw it up there only where A.J. Brown can get it in man coverage, and A.J. Brown 9 times out of 10 is coming down with that ball. And we know Devontae Smith has definitely turned into that and some this season as well, because some of the catches he's made with his catch radius and everything is absolutely unbelievable. So, and I mean, I hope they fix these route trees. Like, I'm getting so tired of watching Jalen Hurts drop back in the pocket and wait and wait and wait. Like, every game, his time in the pocket is like 3 to 4 seconds. And if you watch the All 22 or you rewatch the game, nothing is opening up at all. And then Jalen either has to scramble drill or the wide receivers have to scramble and make something out of nothing and start coming back towards the ball, or he dumps it off to Saquon Barkley, Will Shipley, Dallas Goedert, and they get nowheres with it. It has to stop. You have to be able to. These guys are. Devontae Smith is one of the top 5 route runners in football. A.J. Brown, doesn't matter what route he runs, although he should run a lot more slants, but really doesn't matter what route he runs. He can make a play with it because of just how big he is. He just needs a short window where Jalen can find him, and he can make the rest happen with his feet. That's just who they are. And so I really hope that, I mean, at this point, I'm kind of of the belief that Patullo needs some help from a drawing up route trees perspective, because I just don't think he gets it. But this is a game where you definitely have to take advantage of these injuries and these opportunities that should be out there and should exist.
Which is crazy. He was the passing game coordinator last year, and he worked with Kellen Moore. And you would think that maybe he would have learned something, but apparently not.
Aaron Moorhead's still there. Like, Aaron Moorhead's still very much a part of the wide receiving group and stuff. Like, those two guys together, Patullo and Moorhead, should have seen enough of what was working and the routes that were working to say, okay, these routes are taking way too long to come to fruition for Jalen Hurts. We need to figure out a better way and a more efficient way of getting these guys at football.
Yeah, you would think so, but something's not clicking. Looking at the defense for the Lions, Aiden Hutchinson, really good. This is going to be a test for the Eagles' offense, banged up offensive line. Aleem McNeil is good. DJ Reader. Their front 7 is good. I mean, Alex Anzalone, who's actually from the area, so he's coming back home. Jack Campbell's good. It's the secondary where the Eagles should, if they're able to give Jalen Hurts time and give the receivers actual routes to run, should be able to make plays. DJ Reed is on IR now, but he's probably going to come back, especially with Arnold out and Kirby Joseph out with some of the injuries that they have. They need all the help that they can get. Yeah, so the battle, Aiden Hutchinson going up against Lane Johnson should be one heck of a battle. We know Lane hurt his ankle, which I'm still shocked that he came back into the game. I can't believe he came back into the game. Like, he changed his profile picture, his Twitter profile picture, to him on the cart, which that small ass cart and him, that big dude on there, was pretty funny. But like, we called him on Tuesday, we called him a warrior, and that's exactly what he is. He is a true warrior. And the fact that he is out there, we're going to have potentially the starting offensive line, if Juergens goes, the starting offensive line for I don't even know, how many times has it been the starting offensive line? In 9 games, have we had maybe 4 or 5? Like, it hasn't been the same starting offensive line for the majority of the season. Yeah, because exactly. So just being able to have them all back together should be key.
I agree. I
Excuse
agree.
me.
The front group for the Detroit Lions are extremely good. They're very good at what they do. They're going to get pressure. They're going to come after Jalen Hurts. I think it's going to be very important to, bring in some of those slant routes, bring in some of those quick hitting routes to guys that like I love Will Shipley, but I mean, a dump off to Will Shipley is just kind of a wasted down when it could be something to like an A.J. Brown or a Devontae Smith or someone who can do a lot more with
It
it.
was like when we ever threw the ball to Quez Watkins. It was just a waste.
Agree, Quez. Yes, I remember that year. I remember every year coming
He's
on the
still
show
on the
and the
practice
frustration.
squad?
I don't even know if he's
I think
still
he's
on the
still-
practice squad.
I can't believe
I want
he's still here.
to. I want to know that now. Yeah, he probably is. I never saw him get released, so one would have to assume he's still around. Yeah, he's still there. Britton Covey, Quez
Lordy.
Watkins, and Danny Gray are wide receivers. I can't believe Covey and Watkins are there, but we know how much Eagles love to have familiarity
We don't
with
need
their
Covey
with their
anymore.
guys.
I know they wanted Covey to potentially return punts or kicks, but we have Xavier Gibson. Get rid of Covey, open that space for somebody that actually might be able to do something.
And Gibson, like we said, we talked about it Tuesday. Gibson's been huge. Why it took them a couple of games to give him an opportunity? He should have been out there the first week we picked him up. If you want to give him a little acclimation time, fine. Maybe not the first game, but that second game, there was no reason he shouldn't have been out there a second game because we needed that help. And Covey, he was a crash test dummy. He could take hits, but he was not returning a whole lot of punts. So, I mean, for a short time, like he became one of the top in average punt return yardage. But I mean, Gibson can clearly do a lot of damage. His IQ, we saw his IQ at play. He's a good kick returner. He's definitely turning things around for the Eagles in that department. And we now know that you pretty much have to have a kick punt returner on there at all times and someone who's going to be dedicated to that, who likely won't do a damn thing on offense or defense, which Gibson doesn't, but that's totally fine because, I mean, we can't even get what we have on offense going as is. But, I mean, it continues to be, like that's going to continue to be all important. Like this defense and special teams is going to, if they get the opportunity, they're going to have to do big things and support this offense because, I mean, at this point, I really want to say that this offense is going to get going, but a part of me just has seen enough that I don't know if this is going to be the game that they get it going, but they really need to figure it out and find a game to get this going on offense.
Yeah, and then on the defensive side of the ball, we saw that the Eagles finally got a pass rush. Jalen Phillips, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt. Jalen Carter probably played his best game of the season. Brandon Graham had 10 snaps. They're going to be going up against a decent offensive line for the Lions. They're banged up at the tackle position. Taylor Decker and Penny Sewell are both questionable, but we know they're both going to play. And Penny Sewell is widely considered one of the best right tackles in football. I don't think he's better than Lane Johnson, but for some reason he gets ranked higher than him and makes zero sense. That battle between Jalen Phillips, who last week when I noticed when Phillips and Nolan Smith were on the field together, Nolan Smith actually went to the right side. And we know that they previously, obviously, when they're not playing together, they both line up on the left. So it looks like Phillips is the starting left defensive end for the Eagles. So Phillips against Penny Sewell should be a good matchup. Smith and Hunt against Taylor Decker. But it's going to come down to Quinyon Mitchell, I guess Adoree Jackson, but Jacorian Bennett's available. We don't know if he's going to start, and Cooper DeJean against the receivers for Detroit. And the Eagles' rushing defense has been a lot better since Nakobe Dean has gotten back into it. So I'm intrigued to see how they do against Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Craig Reynolds, who's the third stringer, actually went to a Division II school that my alma mater plays every year. So he's from the area, so he's coming back home, which is pretty cool. I actually got to meet him and speak with him for a little bit when he was on a bye week a couple years. I don't know if that was last year. No, it was 2 years ago. When the Lions were on a bye week, he actually came back to a game that I was at, and it was cool to just sit there and talk to an NFL player that went to like a same size school that you went to. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see the Dan Campbell against Vic Fangio, that matchup, and who can, the old school physical, godfather of defense in Vic Fangio against, a guy who we're going to see a bunch of trick plays. We're going to see Detroit go for it on fourth down multiple times. I'm intrigued to see how all that goes and who can win that battle.
Yeah, you already know that the lines are going to be extremely good. They're already one of the most aggressive teams when it comes to, you're not going to see a 3rd and long draw. You're not going to see fourth and 3 where they're punting the ball. They're going to take advantage of every bit of field position they can. They're very aggressive with it, and they're very good at it. So it's going to be all important for the Eagles to be up in their faces in those situations and making the stops. I mean, I think we're going to look back at this game, and it's going to be who took advantage of their opposing secondary better, because you can probably get some pass rush home on both of these sides, but I mean, these are 2 of the top 5 offensive lines. I mean, the Eagles haven't looked at this year, but they are 2 of the top 5 offensive lines in the NFL. So, I mean, you're going to see some really good battles there, but I think it's going to come down to, who's going to take advantage of which secondary the most. Jared Goff, we know Jared Goff can get that ball out really quickly. Is that going to be enough to be able to take advantage of Adoree Jackson? I spoke about it on Tuesday. I spoke about it last week. I think Ja'Cory Bennett needs to get the look. You need to give him an opportunity. I don't think Adoree Jackson's going to be back next year. I mean, I'd be shocked if he was. And so Ja'Cory Bennett, he's under team control for another year. I think you've got to take a shot and see, is Ja'Cory Bennett our answer at CB2 for the rest of this year plus next year? Like, you have an opportunity with that Ja'Cory Bennett trade to really take advantage of that extra year and figure out, so that it's not like next year it's Kelee Ringo versus Ja'Cory Bennett and we have no clue what we have in Ja'Cory Bennett. I think this is a perfect chance to, and he may not get it against the Detroit Lions. I kind of would understand not wanting to do it in this game, but what better game to start to figure it out? I think next week we're up against the Vikings. Are we not? No? Dallas. Well, then no matter what, you're going to put him out there against a high-end wide receiver 2, a guy who's going to make your life really difficult. So I think you have to get him out there either this week or next week and see what you got in him.
You do want to see what you have in Bennett. The only thing is the ref crew that's reffing the game, they like to call a lot of defensive holding, and that's something that Bennett is, when he's gotten into the game, it's what he does. So the other thing is, we know Adoree Jackson won't be back. It could be Bennett versus Ringo for the number 2 slot. You can't forget Cooper DeJean. Again, while I don't want him to not be the slot, we have Michael Carter the second next year as well. And he could play safety, he could play the nickel. There's 2 spots. So, like, if it really came down to it and they like break glass in case of emergency situations, maybe you move DeJean to the outside, Carter in the slot, and that could be going forward. But it wouldn't shock me if the Eagles make a move for CB2, whether it's in the draft or in free agency when we get to that point, because we don't know if they have the CB2. And it sucks because Bennett had that injury and he didn't have a chance, especially before, the trade deadline, to show the Eagles. And maybe, Vic saw it last year with, Devin White, that he didn't have it. Maybe Vic just sees it in practice and is like, this guy doesn't have it. And again, like, Vic is not shy. Vic Fangio is not shy of speaking. And remember, like, in the off season or, preseason, when somebody asked him an Adoree Jackson question, he's like, well, how he traded for him. It was pretty much like he wasn't good with the Titans, wasn't good with the Giants. And what does that mean? Does that mean he's going to be good here? Who knows? So, like, maybe Vic doesn't believe in Ja'Cory Bennett. Maybe he just doesn't think that he's got it, and that's why he may or may doesn't want to start him, like, give him a chance at that CB2 spot. I mean, obviously he doesn't see it in Ringo because Ringo barely gets out there, and the fact that Adoree Jackson is the best option isn't a good look for Ringo or Bennett.
No, it's definitely, I agree with you. I feel like Howie's probably going to have to go back to the well again at CB2, or at least create some more competition at the CB2 position. But I do believe it's worthwhile to take the shot and see what you got. But like you said, if Vic Fangio doesn't believe in you, he's not going to put you out there, because he knows he's not putting his best 11 guys out there. And he knows at all times he wants his best 11 guys out there who he's going to get the most out of. So we'll see. I mean, he was kind of giving Ja'Cory Bennett a bit of a shot before Ja'Cory Bennett ended up hurt and out for the last handful of weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, Adoree Jackson's looked a bit better over the past couple weeks, but I mean, we'll see.
Not against good receivers.
I'm still skeptical, and like some people will point to, well, I think he hasn't given up more than 35 yards in a week. Like, I mean, that's you can look at that stat, but sometimes there's more to that underlying stat than, just attributing the yardage to the nearest defensive back who's there. I feel like that stat, you need to look at the game, and was there good communication? Did Adoree Jackson miss an assignment? Did Adoree Jackson miss a tackle later on that play, or blah blah blah? I think there's more to those things than just saying he hasn't given up more than 35 yards as the nearest defensive back or as the nearest defensive player. So I do think it's ultimately going to come down to who's going to take advantage. And I feel like Kevin Patullo really, this is a chance to really take advantage of a secondary that's a bit banged up and a bit depleted. But let's move on to our predictions. How about that?
So we will, in this part of the show, we give our player on offense, player on defense, a key or two, and then.
Good morning, Crust. It's a great day to be a bread brother.
Ugh, mornings are not my jam. Or jelly.
Oh, come on. Stop loafing around.
I just woke up feeling hollow inside.
Just grab one of the new Morning Uncrustables sandwiches, like Bright-Eyed Berry or Up and Apple, filled with 12 grams of protein and tons of deliciousness. Crust, what are you eating?
It's just granola, not even yogurt.
No crust, no fuss. Uncrust your mornings.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
I am so excited for this spa day. Candles lit, music on, hot tub warm and ready. And then my chronic hives come back. Again, in the middle of my spa day. What a wet blanket. Looks like another spell of itchy red skin. If you have chronic spontaneous urticaria or CSU, there is a different treatment option. Hives during my next spa day? Not if I can help it. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Black Friday deals are going on all month long. Shop up to 45% off with minimum purchase, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
After we both give those, we give our unheralded player of the week from the previous week, and then we give a prediction. I have my prediction written down, so I can't change it. So, Connor, if you want to go do the honors of going first, you're more than welcome.
Player on offense is going to be Lane Johnson. Like you said, it's Lane Johnson going up against Aiden Hutchinson. I think that to get this offense going and to get it right, we can continue to pick the offensive weapons and say they need a game. But I do think that it's going to be important that Jalen Hurts is comfortable, that Jalen Hurts can see what's out in front of him, and that Jalen Hurts can make a play. And that's going to start with a guy like Lane Johnson holding his own against Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, you could probably pick a handful of guys along this offensive line because they're all going to be they're all banged up, and they're all going to be tasked with some very tough assignments up against this defensive line. Key to the game is like, I mean, we sound like a broken record, but it's got to be to get this offense right, get it on the right track. And I don't mean that you have to force feed the ball to A.J. Brown. I just mean get some plays going. Stop. No more third down give up draws. None of that. No more of these long drawn out plays where it hurts us to stand there for 4 seconds before, there even starts to break or becomes the route you're supposed to try and hit. Like, just try and set some stuff up to make this offense succeed and make this offense become more successful. It's about time, and the lines are going to put up points. You're going to be forced to put up points, or we're going to probably end up getting blown out. As much as I love this Eagles Eagles defense, we're going to end up in a situation where it's going to be close and we need to make things happen. So I'm going with those for offense. Defensively, my player to watch is going to be Nolan Smith. I think Nolan Smith had a pretty good game. Jalen Phillips had a really good game. It's easy to go Jalen Phillips because I feel like everyone's anchoring their hope on Jalen Phillips after that game. But I'm going with Nolan Smith. I think Nolan Smith and Jalen Phillips are both really great picks in this slot, in this position, because Jared Goff is extremely good at getting the ball out quickly. He doesn't have to wait for a play to come to fruition like Jalen Hurts does. He can make that throw very quickly. He can get the ball out very quickly. The Ben Johnson offense was predicated on that. The Dan Campbell offense seems to be semi-predicated on that as well. They know the strength that they have in Jared Goff and how quickly he can get a football out. So it's going to be important that all of our front four, front five, whoever's coming with pressure, gets home and makes life a little more difficult, makes Jared Goff actually have to think or hold the ball for a little bit, because Jared Goff can make mistakes. He's just like Jordan Love. I feel like he's very similar to Jordan Love, better, but similar to Jordan Love. If you can make his life a little uncomfortable, he might make a wrong decision or might throw to Eagles player instead. So, and my key on the defensive side of the ball is going to be for the secondary to just stand up. These are some really good weapons. It's going to be important that they give the defensive line time to get home, time to make life difficult, and they keep up. Quinyon Mitchell was really close to my player that I was going to pick. Whoever he's shadowing, he's going to be vitally important in helping that defensive line.
So on the offensive side of the football, I'm going with A.J. Brown as my player to watch. The last time that the Eagles and Detroit played, which was in 2022, A.J. Brown's first year with the Eagles, it was week 1 in Detroit. Game the Eagles won 38-35. A.J. Brown had 10 catches, 155 yards. I'm not saying he's going to have 10 catches, 155 yards, but I think the Eagles are going to try. I probably said this last week too, who knows, but I think they're going to try to get him involved early, and you're not going up against as good of a defense as Green Bay. They're banged up in the secondary. This could be a game in which you take advantage of that. And my key to the game is going to be just bomb it out. Like, if you get to third and longs, give your talented receivers a chance. Stop being cowardly. Stop playing so conservative. I get it. You don't want to turn the football over, because if you don't turn it over, you win like a majority of the time, like 80% of the time you're going to win. But just give your receivers a chance. So I'm hoping to see the Eagles, just spread the ball around and not even that, just throw the ball down the field. Give your receivers a chance. And I think A.J. Brown is in for a big day. He's not going to have 10 catches. He may have like 5 catches and, 90 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that would be great. But also, Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert still getting involved. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with Quinyon. Whoever he's on, he's got to it's tough because they're, again, 2 really good receivers in St. Brown and Jameson Williams. I don't know if Quinyon can run with Williams. I mean, Quinyon's quick. Maybe he can. So we'll see. But the one thing that Campbell does is gets his receivers in space. So my key on the defensive side of the football, tackle in space. If you let them get a catch, that's fine. Don't let them get yak. Tackle them where they catch it. Because the one thing with the speed of Gibbs and with the speed of Williams and St. Brown's ability on, with the ball in his hands, they are almost like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown when he's like, they make plays after the catch. So on defense, whoever you are, Quinyon, Cooper, Dean, Bond, whoever, especially the safeties who don't like to tackle, whatever you do, and Adoree Jackson or Kelee Ringo who don't like to tackle, don't allow the play after the initial catch. Don't allow them to break tackles and then go 15, 20 yards downfield, because then that can make for a long day.
I love that one because we've had some games where we can go back to a lot of poor form and poor missed tackles that cost us games. We've definitely had a couple of games this past year that have felt a little too close for comfort because of poor fundamentals, just tackling wise. And we know we're not going to be able to fix, Mukuba, Blankenship, and Adoree Jackson and some of their tackling issues overnight. But I mean, if there's a game to make sure you have it be fairly fundamentally sound, I agree, this would be the one.
Yeah, and as Pharaoh and Pharaoh Speaks says, open up the offense. That's pretty much what my key is. Open it up. Just bombs away at the link. Like, give the crowd something to cheer about. And that's, again, the entire NFL world's going to be watching. Everybody's been waiting for this matchup. Two best teams in the NFC over the last handful of years. Let's not get run out of our own building. All right, so before we get to our predictions, Connor, our unheralded player of the week for week 9. Last week was week 9, I think. Week 10, excuse me.
Week 10. In
the NFL. What do we mean by unheralded? We don't need, the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes. Somebody under the radar that helped their team in a positive way. I usually go for a team that won. Connor hasn't in the past. To each their own. Who you got, Connor?
Picked a winning team this time. I'm going with Kamani Vidal for the Los Angeles Chargers. He went 25 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown and 1 reception for 13 yards in a Los Angeles Chargers win 25-10 over the Pittsburgh Steelers, as the Pittsburgh Steelers are definitely coming back to earth after a pretty hot start. But
they're perpetual 9-8 team.
This is true. But Kamani Vidal was kind of thrust into this. He was supposed to be like the RB3 of Marion Hampton's out, been injured. Najee Harris had his eye thing, hasn't really gotten to play a whole lot. When he's played, he hasn't been very good. So obviously Vidal just got thrust into this role, and we know how much Harbaugh loves himself a good running back. And Vidal ran all over the place with those 25 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown, and helping the Chargers to the victory over the Steelers.
We will be in LA in a couple of weeks on Monday night. Another night game. I'm tired of night games. I'm going with Will McDonald of the Jets. He had 4 sacks in their 27-20 victory over the Cleveland Browns, and it was their second consecutive victory before they lost to the Patriots yesterday. And Will McDonald was one of the guys that I was clamoring for the Eagles to get from the Jets, him or Jermaine Johnson. Taylor Phillips was also in that, but I did want one of the Jets' edges. But, they weren't able to get him, and Will McDonald got 4 sacks. My other one was going to be DeMarcus Lawrence, who had 2 touchdowns, which was in that blowout. Seahawks were up 35-0 before you could sneeze. It was ridiculous what they did in there.
It was that whole 5 o'clock time slot was all just absolute blowouts.
Oh yeah, that 4 o'clock window was terrible. It was so bad. All right, Connor, it's prediction time. Who do you have? We are both 5-4 on the year. The Eagles are 7-2. Let's see what you got.
I'm feeling spicy. I'm going with an Eagles win, 34.
So I've been going back and forth all week on this because I don't know. It's just like, look, I don't expect the Eagles to finish the season 15-2. They're going to lose a game between now and the end of the season. And also this 2-game, like this NFC North, under Sirianni, the Eagles are 10-0 apparently against the NFC North. It's ridiculous how good that they play against that division. They're the Kings of the North, if you ask me. And I thought that if they can go 1-1 in this Green Bay Detroit stretch, that's a positive. I'm going to be greedy. I want 2-0. Give me 2-0. I have the Eagles winning 28-24. You have a lot higher scoring game than me. I don't know if the Eagles are giving up 34, and I don't know if the Eagles offense is scoring 38.
I don't know. I mean, are all 38 going to come courtesy of the offense? I don't know. But I mean, at the end of the day, is Dan Campbell going to let his team go down without throwing that ball all over the place and potentially throwing up some points? I don't think so
just
either.
Because they're going to do that doesn't mean they're going to score touchdowns. It is Jared Goff who, look, Jared Goff has been to a Super Bowl, and Jared Goff has kind of remade himself in Detroit. But it's also going to be not in the dome. It's going to be outside. While it's not going to be, freezing temperatures like it would be if the NFC Championship game between these two teams is played in Philly, it's still going to be the crowd is going to be insane. Like, it feels like the Eagles haven't played at home. The Eagles haven't been home since that Giants game. It's going to be 3 weeks. The fan base is going to be all lathered up. It's a Sunday night, all day drinking. It is going to be an insane atmosphere. I do respect Dan Campbell for a couple of things. One, he doesn't want to ban the tush push. He said, you can't take a play away just because one team is good. Find a way to stop it. I respect Dan Campbell on that. Also, I loved it. Like, he talked about his playing days when he was with the Giants and the Cowboys, and like, he loved playing in an atmosphere like this. He knows what he is walking into, and he thinks his team is ready for it. That's how they're built. So I'm hyped for this game. It's going to suck waiting all day till Sunday night. Again, I wish it was a 1 o'clock game. Get it done and over with. But Eagles, Detroit, possible NFC Championship game preview. Can't wait. Should be a good one.
Yeah, I agree. I love that Dan Campbell said that about the tush push. What if some team gets really good at the Hail Mary? Are we just going to take away throws 50 yards plus down the field? Like, stop. Let's get past the point that someone's good at something and that it shouldn't be allowed to exist. Or the other theories, I'm not even getting into it because they're just the whole it's a rugby play and the injury thing. Like, no. But I do respect Dan Campbell and the culture he's built in Detroit.
And I wasn't a Campbell guy. I didn't think he was a good coach, but obviously he's proved me wrong and he's turned things around in Detroit. And everybody talks about it can't be officiated and only the Eagles don't get called for a false start. Well, on their first QB sneak by Green Bay, their entire left side of the offensive line moved and there was no flag. I didn't hear anybody complain about that. So just because it feels like it's only when it happens with the Eagles, people talk about it. Thank you all for tuning into this edition of the Kelly Green Hour as the Philadelphia Eagles are set to do battle with the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LGHerrell54. And follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpool Network. Be sure to like, subscribe, and review each and every show. There's a bunch of good shows. They got the halftime and post-game shows on the Eagles Pinpool Network during every game. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back on Tuesday with a review of this game. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.
Fly, Eagles, fly.